So the point you made is that when we start thinking, theory may be a systematic way of thinking, but you mean that thinking in itself is an act which requires an infrastructure of concepts, and these concepts then can be further understood as the building blocks of theory, or the problem that we respond to by constructing a way of thinking. So in that sense, ontology and epistemology are the very important branches of philosophy which help scientists, social scientists, anthropologists, artists, performing artists, all kinds of people who produce any kind of knowledge. All of them will require ontological understanding and epistemological understanding, rules of the game, and the how we construct meaning and how we produce meaning, and what are the different channels that we employ in meaning production. In ontology and epistemological area, I just want you to little bit talk about different, as we call empiricism, so where our senses perceive some fact, but rationalism, where logic is very dominating, or now as literary theory and the 21st century, we are going in a direction where knowledge is actually coming from people or communities or sections of society who were considered not knowledge producers. For example, Dalits or women or marginalized communities, they are participating in knowledge production. So in that sense, ontologically and epistemologically, how is this whole paradigm is affected by this?
Yeah. A conceptual repertoire is part of the life skills of a person. It's part of the quotidian repertoire of life. So let me give you a simple example. If you don't have a concept to understand the phenomenon, you are debilitated in a way in understanding that phenomenon. There's this very mundane example of a person who came to an urban street and found that people there were talking to themselves. He arrived at the conclusion because he did not have the concept of hands-free phones. So you need concepts to understand everyday life. Theory is a set of coalescible concepts. If you take the example of, say, psychoanalytic framework, the psychoanalytic framework with which we understand literature or try to interpret literature, you have the Freudian concepts, the unconscious, the id, the ego, and the superego, and a whole series of concepts which apparently do not show any contradiction with the initial concepts that Freud began with. If you are a postmodernist, you can even say that knowledge is produced within this repertoire of concepts. It's not that sons covet their mothers. It's not the truth. It's not a truth outside this discourse. At the most we can say is that Freud's speculations concerning mother-son relationships or father-daughter relationships make sense within this theoretical framework, which, as I've been saying, is a set of coelicible concepts. See, in the examples that you pointed out, when you have groups which were previously excluded from knowledge production become increasingly part of this process, the whole episteme is changing. Again, that is something which illustrates Heidegger's position. You have new kinds of knowledge produced as a result of your increasing recognition of different participants in the discourse. Nietzsche would consider this kind of approach to knowledge in the sense, let me explain. In the past, knowledge was produced in a univocal manner. It's a one-sided process. It is a politically one-sided process, a very ideological kind of exercise. Now, when you try to contest that old episteme, Nietzsche would call it ressentiment, R-E-S-S-E-N-T-I-M-E-N-T. In English, it's translated as resentment. So, Nietzsche's point is that apparently neutral concepts such as truth and morality and reason have an element of resentment behind them. So, what you consider knowledge has many power games or ideological maneuvers behind them. But the world is so unequal. There is all kinds of politics. Epistemes are inherently twisted. So though Nietzsche would call this not the ideal kind of knowledge, given the fact that epistemes are so twisted, you know, in the kind of situations that you pointed out, the caste hierarchies in India, or the case of African Americans, or the colonial and post-colonial situations, when the epistemes are violently twisted, in order to set right the balance, you require this.